Hello, I am Brian Krause. I am with Troop 50 out of Park Ridge, Illinois, and today we are going to go through my fundraising and salesmanship masterclass. During this, there's going to be two primary subjects we're going to cover. One, we're going to go over some fundraising strategies and techniques as they relate to selling wreaths and popcorn. Number two, I'm going to cover some of the requirements necessary for the Salesmanship Merit Badge. After completing this, you're going to learn some great strategies, some great techniques, and hopefully mentally prepare yourself to get out there and increase your fundraising efforts to help your troop raise the necessary funds so you can continue to do fun scouting activities. Okay, let's jump into our masterclass. We're going to go over a quick introduction, talk a little bit about why we are in Scouts, go over what it takes to run a troop, how do we keep our troop running, and then we're not going to talk so much about sales, but we're going to talk about fundraising strategies. As a bit of an introduction, who am I? I am Brian Krause. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or follow me to learn a little bit more about me. But I've had a sales career that spanned over 20 years. Currently, I do cybersecurity sales at a professional level, and this is something where I get to go out there and help teach our customers about the products that we sell. Now, selling isn't about trying to sell something to everyone. It's about helping people find the right product to fit their needs. And this is exactly why I wanted to help impart some of the knowledge that I've learned over my long career, and that overlays really nicely with the Salesmanship Merit Badge. And this is my opportunity to help give back to scouting in general by teaching scouts like yourself better ways to raise funds for your troop. So let's take a step back for just a second and think about, why are we in Scouts? Well, the reality is there boils down to two primary reasons. One, we want to have fun, go out camping, canoeing, go on high adventure trips. And then we want to learn some really valuable skills. And that is something that Scouts brings to all of us, teaches us things we would never have learned necessarily on our own. Now, before we get into the rest of this presentation, I want to play a little game. And this game is called, What Do You Think It Costs? Now, when I'm in person, obviously, this runs a little bit differently, but I want you to first think about this stainless steel troop cook set. What do you think something like that might cost? Well, it's probably going to surprise you. That costs almost $300. Now, another thing that my troop recently did, we needed to build some additional storage for all of our camping gear, and we needed to get some extreme garage shelving. What do you think something like that might cost? Well, that is almost $1,600. And let's get into something that is a little bit more scout-like, or what we traditionally think of in Scouts. Let's think tents. In particular, a lightweight tent. My troop is going to go on a backpacking trip here in the Porcupine Mountains in a few weeks. What do you think a tent costs? Well, you'd probably be surprised. It's like $400 just to have one of these. And they don't even get used all that often because they're kind of not particularly durable, and they're really just meant for backpacking. Now, when we look at some of the activities we do, this also becomes rather surprising. Going out to a Wasapee Scout Ranch in Michigan, that's $435. Our Porcupine Mountain trip I was just referencing, well, that happens to be a little less expensive, only $60. This weekend, we're getting ready to do a Webelow Outdoor Weekend. That's going to cost $35. And as we get into next March, we're going to go on a really awesome trip going out to Sea Base for high adventure, and that comes in at $1,800. So what's the talk of all this money? Well, anything fun is always going to cost you money, and unfortunately, to run a troop takes a lot of money. So the question becomes, how do we get money? Well, there's really only one way, and that's through sales. Now, everybody has a view of sales. Some people think it's too hard, or they think of unscrupulous salespeople. But something that I want us to think about is what salesmanship is. Now, as I mentioned, sales gets a bad rap, but sales is really about helping people get the right solution. And now when we think about that, helping people get the right solution, that also oftentimes means what you're offering is not the right solution, and that's the point where we just need to move on in life. Now, as we get into fundraising for the troop, what are we selling? Well, we're selling popcorn and wreaths, at least this year is what's going on. But when we look at it, what is it that we're really selling? We're selling the opportunity to support scouting. And what does that mean? Well, it means producing fine men in the world, and probably in the next 5 to 10 years, because of some of the changes in scouting, fine women in the world. And here's a great example of some great people that are some Eagle Scouts, some that openly attribute some of their success to scouting. And what's important to know that people around you, especially adults out there in the working world, they have met plenty of scouts over their years, and they see that scouts tend to be successful people that live by the scout oath and scout law, and that is something that most people would like to help support. Now, let's think about selling and get into some of the key selling principles that you really want to be mindful of as you get out there. Well, first of all, if you're going to sell anything, you need to know your products. It sounds pretty simple and straightforward, but if you're going to sell popcorn, you should probably know what kind of popcorn you're selling. You're selling wreaths? Are you selling only wreaths? Are you selling Christmas trees? Are you selling Christmas tree stands? Whatever the case may be, know what you're selling. And then from there, you need to come in and have a fundraising pitch. Now, part of a pitch is straightforward of, hey, this is what I'm looking at. This is what we're offering. But something we do need to be mindful of, there's going to be objections, and you have to be prepared for these. The scout laws, be prepared, so we want to prepare for the roadblocks to come. Now, as we start to get a pitch and we create, we prepare for our objections, we need to come and create a sales plan so we can kind of figure out how are we going to actually sell what we're hoping to sell and achieve our financial goal. And then, of course, as part of this, you want to make sure that you understand your rewards and what these rewards mean for you. With this in hand, you need to mentally prepare yourself because it is definitely something that is tricky to do, to get out there and go out and fundraise. And then finally, it is time to execute on your plan. So when we look at know your product, fortunately for what we're fundraising in Scouts, it's usually pretty straightforward. We're looking at popcorn, we're looking at wreaths, and as luck would have it, your leaders have given you some sort of sell sheet. The recommendation here is you need to go through and you need to read about all of the different products, see what makes one product unique, understand what the pricing is, what is it that your customer actually gets, and start thinking about why would your customer care about some of these products. From here, we need to start thinking about our fundraising pitch. Now, first and foremost, we got to remember we are fundraising. We are not selling popcorn and wreaths. And keep in mind, adults like supporting youth endeavors. So just as you walk in, this is where we want to start being mindful that perception is reality. And we want to think about how do you look? If you look clean, sharp, and put together, have your uniform on, adults are going to be happy to help support you. If you look sloppy and you look like you're going to steal from them, well, you're probably not going to get the result you want. Now, the next thing is, since your fundraising efforts are targeted at adults, you got to think a little bit about how do you win an adult over? Well, I would argue that first and foremost, you should probably look adults in the eye. That way we can see you're looking at us and we're looking at you. From here, make sure you speak up so you're heard. This is something that a lot of kids have problems with. Don't look down at your knees. Don't look at your feet. Don't look at my stomach as you're talking to me as an adult. Look at my eyes. Speak up so you can be heard. And it all starts with just a simple introduction of, hello, my name is. If I was walking up to somebody, I would go so simple as saying, hi, my name is Brian, and that is a great icebreaker. And then from there, we really want to explain why you're talking to them and then tell your personal story, because you're selling your story, you're selling a reason to help support the efforts that you're bringing to the table that you do at Scouts, as well as what Scouting is doing to help youth overall. Now let's get into a little bit of a pitch. And here I just want to go through a pitch that I think is a well-written pitch and something that's worth trying. Something that I would try going with is just, "Hi, my name is Brian. I'm hoping you've seen positive impacts from other scouts like myself over the years. I'm participating in a fundraiser to help support scouting. This goes towards helping staff camps, provide leadership programs, and maintain troop gear. We're raising funds by selling popcorn and wreaths. Would you be interested in hearing more to help support the scouts?" Now, something to note, this is just a framework of a pitch. There's some key points in here that are important. I've said, "Hi, my name is." I've given you an icebreaker. I've asked you a question of, have you seen positive impacts from other scouts over the years? And then I let you know what I'm doing. I'm participating in a fundraiser. Tell you a little bit about what this is going towards, staffing camps, leadership programs, and then I let you know what it is I'm asking for, and it's we're raising funds. Notice I say raising funds, not selling, but raising funds, and then I get to selling popcorn and wreaths. And then finally, it's just simply, would you be interested in hearing more? Now, this is a very basic pitch. This may or may not work for you, and in this exact format, it's probably not going to work for you. It's not very personable. But when you start with your pitch, this is all of a sudden where you can start thinking about some of the other sales avenues you're going to have. We always think of face-to-face sales, right? Going door to door. We think about doing phone calls. And more, we're in that online world where you're emailing people, you're doing video, social media posts. And in order to create all that different content, it starts with the pitch. And what I mean by that is you take a very simple pitch, and here's one that me and my son had used a few years back, where we talked a little bit back and forth of what he thought was important. And here we decided that, hey, I recently became a Tiger Cub. And we said with Pac 50 in Park Ridge, Illinois. In this one, since this is an email pitch, I had him send this out to a bunch of work friends of mine. And here he says, my dad said I could email you since you are a friend of his at Centrify, which was the company I worked at the time. And as you'll notice, all of the same mechanics that were in my other sales pitch are here. We talk about what scouting is, what you're supporting, and then when we finally get to the end, we are always going to want to make sure we make a specific call to action. And what our call to action is please click on this link to help support us. And one big piece we always want to drill on is that 70% of these funds are going to scouting. Because what ends up happening a lot of times when you're selling product is the product is kind of expensive compared to what you might buy at the grocery store at Walmart. But at the end of the day, we're really doing fundraising. And that's why we're always talking about fundraising and not selling product. Now let's get into some little tips and tricks that will help you personalize your pitch a bit more. Well, first of all, one of the best things you can do is tell people what products you like. If you personally like the caramel crunch popcorn or the butter cheese popcorn or the microwave popcorn, tell people that. That all of a sudden starts to build the story of why you care about the product you sell. Next, it's always a good idea if you're looking for some icebreakers, ask the person you're talking to if they or any of their family members were in Scouts. Because as I mentioned, we're really selling the idea that Scouts are great people. And if you truly believe in that, and I definitely do, when you start to ask someone, do they know Scouts? They probably have a coworker, a boss, an uncle, a nephew, somebody that they knew that was a Scout, and that leaves a very positive feeling in their mind, and they're probably more likely to want to talk to you. Now, the next thing is we always want to talk positive. Sometimes people aren't going to like the product you're talking about. For whatever reason, they just might not even like the organization, and that's fine, but be positive. And if somebody is negative, just move on. Now, we want to always help people think of what they could do with their popcorn or wreaths. So this is a great option to really bring an idea to the table. So if you're talking to somebody, mention that, hey, this could be a great gift to give to your relative or coworkers. If you see somebody has a really big garage, maybe recommend that they put a wreath over the garage. Popcorn tends to come out during the holidays, so it's a great recommendation to say, hey, popcorn makes great treats for holidays. By making a little recommendation, it shows that you're thinking about ways that our products or your products could help your customer. And then finally, this is really where we get into the idea of customization. Always customize your pitch. Make sure it's custom to how you are, what you like, how you talk. I'm in professional sales. This is something I've done for a long time. I have my way of talking, my way of telling jokes, and just because one way I give a pitch, it's probably not going to work for you, and the way you're going to give your pitch or talk isn't going to work for me. So remember, always customize it to reflect how you are as a person, what you value, and talk about that. And then make sure you ask for referrals. If you made a sale to grandma or your uncle, ask grandma or your uncle to send your email over to 10 additional friends of theirs. Because if you don't ask, they're definitely not going to think to do that on your own. And that could be a lot of great additional fundraising you can do. And then a great tip to always think about is reach back to people that have bought from you in the past. Depending on your age, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably didn't stumble upon this as a tiger cub. You're probably a little older kid in Scouts or something. You've been selling popcorn for a long time. Maybe you didn't kill it in sales over the past 5 years, but you've had a lot of people you've sold to. So ask your parent to go through their email and look at those sales order sheets that you've sent into whoever the popcorn kernel was. Call those people. If they bought from you last year or 3 years ago, they probably bought from you for a reason because they like you. So why not ask again? And then finally, whenever you're reaching out to somebody, whether it's a phone call, face-to-face, you're doing some sort of site sale, have a call to action. And what a call to action is just saying, what are you asking somebody to do? If you gave your pitch and you told them about how great the large bucket of popcorn is for Super Bowl parties, ask them if they'd be interested in buying that. Because if you don't ask, no one's going to necessarily come out and offer to buy it from you. Now, one part of sales is handling objections. And you're going to hear no all the time. And you're going to hear plenty of reasons not to buy something. Many times they're legitimate. And if that's the case, so be it. You move on. But sometimes people just aren't 100% certain. And they want you to nudge them over the line a little bit and give them a good reason. One we often see is, I don't like popcorn. Well, something you can easily say there is, hey, many military members like popcorn, and we can make a donation for them on your behalf. Another one is, hey, we're also selling wreaths. There's more options than just popcorn. One that I definitely hear all the time is, this popcorn is really expensive. There's a real simple answer to that. I hear you. However, and this is the key point, 70% of that sale goes directly to scouting. Now, the popcorn is really just a treat for helping fund the scouts. So it's not so much that they're buying popcorn from you. They're providing funds to help support your efforts in scouting, and buying the popcorn really isn't the key point here, and that's what you want to let them know. Now, if someone says, I've already given to the scouts, thank them for the support. We do genuinely appreciate it. Whether they bought something or supported scouting a block over to, their son or their, granddaughter out in New York, that's awesome. We should appreciate that. They're helping the greater cause, which is part of what we are doing a fundraiser for. But also make sure to let them know that if they think they'd like to donate more, feel free to ask you. You can never have too much popcorn or greenery. Likely they'll just laugh with you and say, well, thank you for your time, and move on. But every once in a while, maybe they'll actually buy some from you. And then if someone says, hey, I'd rather just give you a donation and skip the product, you say, thank you so much. Our troop really appreciates it, and take that money and you're going to hand that over to your leader so that helps fund the troop for all of our great endeavors. Now, an important part of salesmanship in general and fundraising is creating a plan. And this all starts from giving yourself a goal and picking a number or a sales number you're trying to hit and back your way into it. Now, as we look at this, there's going to be a lot of different ways to sell. We've got door-to-door, we have site sales, online, email, and then there's the referral sales. So as we create our plan, we want to think of all of those different sales avenues we may have. What I wanted to do here is think about how would I personally go about achieving a goal if I were out there selling popcorn. And I have sold popcorn in the past. I am an Eagle Scout. I've been in Scouts for many years, so this isn't my first rodeo here. But let's assume I wanted to hit a goal of $5,000. What I would look at is say, what is the average sale? Look at that and figure it's probably about $25. And if I did that math, that means I've got to do about 200 total sales if I were to hit a goal of $5,000. How might I go about this? Well, I think the first step I would do is I would put together a really nice email. In that email, I would cover all those little strategies I talked about. I'd probably make a little video as well that I would attach to it. I'd email that to family members, friends of the family, and then I would see if I could send that over to my parent coworkers. And in doing that, I don't know, I think it's realistic to think I could get 30 sales out of that. Next, since I've created a video and I've started writing some content, I would ask my parent to post that to Facebook. And if I did a really nice job on that video, I'd ask them to post it to their LinkedIn account. Now with that, putting on social media, I don't really think you're going to drive a ton of sales, or that's kind of my belief. But I could realistically see getting 5 sales. It seems like that's more of a brand awareness thing to me, that some of my emails might now become a little bit more effective because they saw me out there on Facebook. Then I would go do some door-to-door sales. I would just say, hey, you know what? For 5 days, an hour a day after school, maybe I'll do that over like 3 weeks. I'm going to go knock, tell my story, see if I can get some people interested in Wreaths and popcorn. And I think I could realistically get to about 25 sales doing that. And then fortunately, most troops have the ability to do site sales. And that means I go in front of my local grocery store and I stand there with product there, ask people if they'd be interested. And if I did that for 4 hours, I'm reasonably certain I could get 20 sales there. Then we have phone calls. I would go and call all the different family and friends that I haven't heard from some of my other efforts, and I bet I could get about 10 sales. Now, if you add up those numbers, you're going to quickly see I am far short of those 200 sales. I'm at about 90. So how do I take that to the next level? This is where referrals come in. And I would then go back to every customer that I made a sale to, outside of the site sales, because I'm not going to really know who they are. And I'm going to ask if they would share a post on their Facebook and if they would forward my email to 10 of their friends each. And if I did something of that nature, I realistically could get another 110 sales, because anybody that buys something from me, I can probably get them to forward an email on my behalf. It's pretty much a low-risk activity. And that's how I would get to $5,000 in sales. And bam, there you go. You're selling lots of popcorn. Now we need to think a little bit about what are our rewards or our motivation to get out there and do fundraising. And this is kind of where the rubber hits the road and we get to brass tacks and have to start thinking about where are the profits, because ultimately we're trying to fund all of these great activities and be able to buy equipment for the troop. When we look at Wreaths, those have a 28% profit margin on sales. And what that means is if I sell $100 of Wreaths, $28 is profit for our troop. And with our personal troop, we split it where 60% goes to the troop and then 40% goes to a scout account. Popcorn works a little different with our troop, where of the popcorn sales that happen, 70% goes to scouting in general. Some of that's national and council level. And then 34% of those sales goes to our individual troops. So sell $100 in popcorn, $34 goes to the troop. Sell $1,000 in popcorn, $340 goes to the troop. And with that, the way our troop works, 50% goes to the troop and 50% goes to the scout account. And that's a way for you to help build or buy equipment or fund going to some of the different camps. And then, of course, with some of these different programs with our popcorn company, there are some cool prizes. If you hit 5,000 in sales, looks like I could get a cool Leatherman tool or an awesome Lego set. But what I think the most important part is you are able to fund your scout account. And this is going to help you pay for camping trips. This is going to help you pay for a new set of boots, for backpacks. All of these scouting efforts you want to do, they cost a lot of money. And that is something that if you want to do some of the bigger adventures, that might be out of the reach of your parents. But you do this. This is a great way that you help yourself, you help your family, you help scouting, and you become a better member of the community. Now, as we get out there and get ready to sell, we need to mentally prepare ourselves. And in order to do this, we need to have confidence. And confidence comes in many forms. Our buddy The Rock here, he's nice and muscly, so he probably has certain levels of confidence. Well, you as a scout, you should have lots of confidence because you've gone through my master class. You know lots about scouting. You have lots of personal stories about how scouting has helped you and have helped others. And you're armed with the knowledge of knowing people want to support you. So walk out there, have confidence in what you do. The next thing to remember is selling and fundraising is a numbers game. Here's a little unscientific study that me and my son did at Site Sales one time, where we went and marked off every single time someone said no to us and how many times people said, yes, I'd like to buy some popcorn in front of our grocery store. And what you'll notice, about 75% of the time, people are going to tell you no. And that's all right. That's something you should expect. So when you're out there talking, expect to hear a lot of no's. And when someone says no, with a big old smile, say thank you and no, you've gotten that no out of the way. You just got to get two more under you, and then you have a real high probability of getting to a yes. And then the last recommendation I would have, start learning different tactics about sales. Start learning of different ways that you can help people. A great book out there is by a guy named Robert Cialdini. Now, if you're a younger scout, it's probably a little bit longer of a book than you might want to read. However, he has lots of great videos, and he'll teach you some ways to help position yourself, help talk, give a better pitch, and really put yourself in a good light that people are going to want to help provide funds to support your efforts in scouting. And with that said, it is time to take your plan and execute on it. So anyone that's looking to go through Salesmanship Merit Badge, by and far, the next step is to figure out what sort of fundraising goal you want to do, pick a number, and then come up with a plan of how you're going to get to that number. What way are you going to go and talk to customers about selling your various product? And then from there, you talk to your merit badge counselor. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me today, and good luck in your future fundraising efforts.